Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the sequel to the beloved Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie that we all thought was going to be Marvel's first flop. But it didn't. It became one of the highest grossing films of that year, I believe, and yeah, it was quite the home run for Marvel. So, the sequel, Volume 2, is it as good as the first one? No, not really. Did it have to be? Of course not. No, it didn't have to be. Was it a fun, enjoyable ride? Heck yeah. So yeah, let's get into the pros of this movie. First of all, I like the new additions, Yondu, Nebula, and Mantis. Specifically Yondu. Yondu was really great in this one. He provided a very unexpected amount of character complexity. Like, you actually care for Yondu. Like, out of all the people in the Guardians of the Galaxy, Yondu is the one I cared about the most. And I felt like a lot of people are gonna feel the same. So yeah, look forward to that. You also get deeper into Nebula's character. You realize why she hates Gamora so much. You learn about her background and what Thanos did to her. So yeah, there's that. And I feel Karen Gillan's performance as her was actually quite good. A lot of people said that she felt a bit over the top. It seems that she is overacting, but I think it suits her character regardless. So yeah. Now, of course, Baby Groot of course. He was cute, and I'm glad they didn't overuse him to such an extent that it would be annoying. No, I think they used him right. They didn't shove our faces with Baby Groot jokes like every 2 seconds. I don't think so, at least for me. So yeah. And again, Mantis. Mantis was an interesting character, not my favorite out of all the bunch, but still, she was okay. She provided some funny moments, so there's that. Now, Kurt Russell was also great, you know, becoming Star-Lord's dad, and it's nice to see like the dynamics between Kurt Russell and Star-Lord together, and you know, seeing them bond together was also fun. And the villain, surprisingly, the villain in this one is actually one of the better Marvel villains. I'm not saying he's as good as Loki. I think that he's on par with Alexander Pierce or Zemo, and yeah, I do think Zemo is a decent villain. So yeah. And the action in this movie, of course, is much bigger than the last one. And not to mention, the color palette of this movie is really awesome. The color palette is much more wider, it's more colorful, much more 70s, like what we saw in the trailers and the Thor Ragnarok trailer, of course. And yeah, even though the old one is also colorful, I felt that the first movie always shifted to this very almost orange, iron, metal-like color scheme. I don't know, that's just what I see. And of course, last but not least, Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother. I know usually when directors shoves in their relatives into movies, usually it's not that good, but in this case, you actually feel for his character. Like, I'm not gonna go too deep on his character, but he was actually quite a lot of fun in the movie, and I do hope we see more of him in the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and hell, maybe Infinity War, hopefully. Now, those are all the good things about the movie, but again, no movie is perfect, and I did say that this one is not as good as the first one, and here's why. The team dynamics are not as prominent as they were in the first one. I felt like the first movie presented these characters as a family, you know, coming together, and they became quite a family. This one, not so much, and it's not because of the direction that they took by splitting the characters. No, I felt since they split the characters, this is a bit like an Empire Strikes Back situation. They team, basically, there's one with Star-Lord, with Gamora, Drax, and Mantis, and the rest goes with Rocket, and there's Yondu and Nebula. The funny thing is, the team with Yondu, Nebula, and Rocket, I felt that those characters were fleshed out more, but the other team, the one with Star-Lord, I felt like every time we go to scenes regarding those teams, it always focuses more on Star-Lord, and the rest were just there to like stand near him and just hear what Kurt Russell has to say, and I don't think they get as much moments as they should. So I'm not saying that the story offered for Star-Lord is a bad thing, no, not at all, but I felt like this is Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Not Star-Lord and his friends, so yeah. And the story gets slightly muddled because of that, because it focuses much on Star-Lord, but sometimes he wants to go to other directions, but again, it keeps going back to Star-Lord, and might as well just keep focusing on him, you know. And there's this whole subplot with the Golden People, aka the Sovereign and all. It was fun and all, but I felt like sometimes it keeps going to other places that it didn't need to. Also, I feel like this one lacks the energy and charisma that the first one had. The humor, well, I did get a few laughs out of it, and there were definitely more hits and misses. I didn't feel they were as iconic and witty as the first one. This one, the humor in this movie shifted to a more traditional MCU style of humor, which isn't a bad thing, but the first Guardians of the Galaxy felt more unique in terms of its humor. Like, it's more brave in my opinion. I don't know, this one just, I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's compared to the first movie, it kind of falls short. So those were the cons, and yes, they were definitely prominent, but none of them actually was too bad that they actually took me out of the movie, not at all. So there's that. And here's one thing that this movie though had that the first one did not have, and that is emotion. I'm not saying that the first one didn't have any emotion, but this one has moments in which I actually teared up, you know, like out of all the movies in the Phase 3 of Marvel, like I didn't expect to cry in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but I did, and I think some of you, at least most of you I guess, will at least shed a tear in some moments in this movie, because I do feel like the third act is the best part of this movie. First and second, while fun, I felt like they were not as focused as the third one. The third act, you feel like everything comes together, everybody comes together, and yes, you kind of finally get the whole structure of the movie. But yeah, that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Not as good as first one, but it's still a very fun ride. I recommend for you guys to see it out in the theaters. I'm sure you guys will have lots of fun. Be sure to stay until the end credits. You have 5 end credit scenes, and one of them is quite important for us geeks. So yeah, stay tuned, of course. And yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. That isn't a bad score, by the way. Maybe for a Marvel movie, we are used to such high numbers, but at the end of the day, there are movies, none of them are perfect. And this one is certainly not perfect, but it's certainly not bad at all, so yeah. Anyway, this is Ralph. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter for more updates, of course. And again, like I said, subscribe for more videos. And yeah, this is Ralph, and see you guys later.